Yo, what's up, everybody? If you haven't heard about Anchor, let me tell you, this is one of the easiest ways to make a podcast. First of all, it's free. Second of all, there's creation tools that allow you to record and edit the podcast right from your phone or computer. Third, Anchor will also distribute for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. Then you can also make money from the podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Trust me, you won't be disappointed. Later. Emotional intelligence. So I want you guys to think about it. Emotional intelligence is a buzzword. However, it's a buzzword for a reason because it matters. Emotional intelligence, not just about how intelligent you are when it comes down to your how aware you are, but how aware are you with other individuals and who they are. Okay, so I want you to think about that in the process of emotional intelligence. And so we're getting ready to start here in a few. Let's go.
Welcome to the Lion's Den with Seth, a podcast where progressive men and women can learn and teach each other the ways of the land. The Lion's Den is where royalty comes to council. Ladies and gentlemen, your host, Seth.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's another episode of the Lion's Den. And this week, we're going to be talking about emotional intelligence. Yeah. How you feel about that? So we got my man's Herm and we got Larry. But welcome to the Lion's Den. We have, ladies and gentlemen, we have the infamous Brian Clueball. How you feeling, man?
Very good.
Huh?
Very good.
Feeling
I'm
good?
really happy to be here. Thank you.
That's good. That's good. So we talk a lot. We talk a lot about emotional intelligence and what that means, okay? But what we don't do is talk about not just work, but at home. Can you expound a little bit on that?
Absolutely. So, I'm happy that you brought that up because a lot of times when I teach, and it's the habit of newer instructors, when they get in and they start talking, they always want to bring it back to work, because that's what everybody's there for, the challenges and the conflict, right, and some of those issues that pop up at work. But I will tell you, my wife actually came to one of my classes a couple months back, and it was awesome because it generates a whole different level of conversations when we're at home now, especially when conflict with our daughter, conflict between us, conflict with her at work, and how we can talk about those things. And one of it is, when you talk about EQ, it's self-awareness, it's self-management, social awareness, and then relationship management. And that self-awareness piece is so important because a lot of times we don't take the time to actually figure out how we feel when we feel it.
That's right.
We just jump straight into making decisions, and we're really good at rationalizing our decisions and the why behind we do the things that we do. But we don't necessarily understand it. Most of the time, it's an emotion that's behind that. So yeah.
So if you could explain what emotional intelligence is, what would you say it is? And just plain English. What would you say it is?
The down and dirty is it's your ability to recognize your emotions as they occur, control the reactions, and with others also to better react and to better interact with people. That's it.
Yeah, that's simple. It sounds simple.
It is.
Right? It sounds simple, but what I believe, and you guys can chime in, is that it's easy to say, but it's so hard to do because there's a level of vulnerability that you have to be able to expose yourself to.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Now, what have you dealt with when it came down to that?
Ego. Ego's a big one. Ego's rough because a lot of folks they don't know the extent of their own egos, right? And one of the great things about when we teach is we'll play videos that kind of show the concepts that we're talking about, but it's the self-reflection piece and the exercises that's so important, and it forces you to get past the ego a little bit and just kind of spend some time with yourself for a few minutes thinking about, okay, how do I really feel? Let me think back to a time when maybe I felt some type of way, but I didn't realize that I felt some type of way, and I told myself, you know, I did these things, or I reacted this way. A good example of that is anytime, you know, sometimes we get asked questions by the boss, right?
Right.
And we don't know the answers to those questions. That triggers an emotion.
Yes.
You know, it's usually not a positive emotion at that point. And what happens is sometimes people will go back and they will just react, right? And they will go overreact and I need this now, or become very agitated with other people around them. And what you really want to hone in on is, okay, how do I feel? What's going on with me? And then when we talk self-management, now let me think that through and let me really figure out what's going to be the best way to do this, because I want to get to positive. I don't want to get to negative. At home, you know, we're talking about both sides of the equation. You didn't do the dishes, right? You didn't do the dishes. There's a reason you didn't do the dishes, but you didn't do the dishes. And now your wife feels some type of way at you, right? And then that makes you want to feel some type of way back. And then it starts that vicious circle. And now you're going around in the anger circle.
That's right.
Instead of taking the time and say, okay, I feel angry. The reason I feel angry is because maybe I didn't get them done because I had all these other things going on. So it's really not even anger at that point. I'm disappointed. And so now I've got, you know, that core emotion, right? The disappointment piece. I'm disappointed because she doesn't value what I was doing and the reason why I didn't get it done in the first place. And we didn't even have that conversation. She just kind of,
and that's the main part,
yes,
right?
Yep.
Is the value piece.
Yep, absolutely.
But go ahead, what you got?
I was thinking emotional intelligence. It sounds like it deals with a lot of knowing yourself, one, but also effective communication, right? So being able to articulate whatever that situation is and taking the emotion out. How not important, but how do you look at how hard it is to maybe take that emotional piece out of it when we talk about emotional intelligence? Because it's easy to say, but it's very hard to do, especially when you're reacting off your raw emotions at that moment instead of taking a deep breath. So is there any techniques to that?
So there's a diagram that I swear by. So all the stuff that we do on base is all from a company called Talent Smart, and they're kind of the industry lead for all this. Part of the self-management portion of the curriculum is we talk about the brain and we talk about what happens inside the brain. And what the first thing to realize is, and I always ask this question, you know, how many of you out in the audience think you can control your emotions? And I always get a couple of hands pop up, and then I yell at them, you know, you're wrong. And then we go into the why, right? I'll put the diagram up on the screen. And what everybody has to, the first step to that is understanding you can't control feeling.
Right.
You feel.
Right.
Trigger happens, an event happens, you feel. That's the back half of your brain. It's called the limbic system. And that generates the emotion. And that's where we come into that path, right? I can either go, so when I'm in my car driving in the left lane of traffic and somebody slower than me gets in front of me,
Oh my God.
that's a trigger event. That's a trigger event, and that causes me to feel an emotion, and it's not a happy one,
Especially
right?
when it's the law. It's the damn law. Listen, get over there and then do what you got to do and move back over. But then if you ride in that lane and, I mean, you slow. Right? That burns me.
There's emotions.
Right. That is emotions.
Yes. So, younger, less educated Brian Klubal, there would be a very immediate negative reaction to that. You know, usually a particular finger or two is going to go up, the horn's going to get honked, and all sorts of stuff. But now I run that through, and this is what you try to do: is you run it through the front half of your brain, which is the rational part, and it's called self-talk. And this is self-talk. I think you've heard me talk on self-talk before. That to me, out of all the strategies with emotional intelligence, self-talk is the most important because it drives our reactions. And more importantly, it's the thing that holds us back from reaching our potential. It really does. And so in the heat of the moment, you got to recognize, and then you got to stop and you got to rationalize. And if it's not the time for you to talk about it, don't talk about it. If you need to walk away, walk away. If you've got somebody that won't let you walk away, you got to figure out a way to walk away, because otherwise it's just going to escalate and you're going to follow the negative track straight to a bad result. But it's tough. It's really, really tough. It's one of the most common questions I get. And the cool thing about EQ, it's not like personality and it's not like your IQ, right? Those are fixed. You can't do anything about them. They are what they are. But EQ, you can practice it. It's just like a muscle. I can take it to the gym. I can work it. I can make it stronger, more flexible, and I can get better at it so that when I am in those moments, and I'm okay now. My wife and my daughter have a particular knack for hitting that button, and then even I struggle with it from time to time, and even at work. You know what I do, and so there's times when I really have to control what's happening with me. Otherwise, it's going to affect a lot more than me.
Right.
You know what? And I know you probably have some, Herm, but it's something you said that makes sense, and a lot of people may not know, but it takes approximately 3 seconds. 3 seconds from the activated event for you to think logically about it. And there's times individuals make a reaction or do something stupid just based off of that feeling. Yep. But all you have to wait and just hold tight. And then you start thinking, okay, what would happen if I beat my horn at this person and they see me and I go around to them, I give them the finger and it can just go downhill, right? Yeah. It can go right downhill. Yeah. So, I understand that. What you got, Herm?
So my question is, full disclosure, I've never heard of this course. I think it's very interesting, and I'm going to want to get some information on it. But I want to know, in that course, does it talk about when is it a good time to lead with your emotions? Is there ever a good time to lead with your emotions and let your emotions guide you through your decision process?
So I would say I've had that question actually asked in the past before, and the best example that I think I've come up with when you should absolutely allow your emotions to drive your actions is if you are in some type of crisis, right? So active shooter, right? I mean, you're going to have some emotions, but then you want that to drive everything that you're doing at that point. Yes, you want to be thinking through, but you want to hone in on that and react. Safety, sometimes you'll see your child getting ready to do something drastically stupid and you won't even think. You'll just jump straight into action to go pull them back or maybe, pull them out of the street, whatever that looks like. Those are the opportunities and the times when that emotion is just going to drive everything you're doing and you won't even bother to think about anything until after it's already done.
Because you care.
Yep, absolutely.
So I got to follow up with that. So again, I'm going to learn more about your course, but we talked about offline about they used to say boys don't cry, we're not supposed to show emotion, we're not supposed to cry, you know what I mean? And then with the whole Kobe thing, it started coming out, grown men were crying over him and stuff like that, and it's like, yo, this is okay, we supposed to let out these emotions. Does your course talk to that at all, or because it talks about workplace and personal, right? So does it touch on that at all? And if it does, what are your thoughts on that?
So the curriculum itself, I don't think we talk to that specifically, but I will tell you, when I went through the certification class, we had a retired command chief down there, and as part of that class, we had to take what's called a multi-rater assessment. So you kind of assess yourself, and then up to 50 people can assess you. And it's really valuable because you get that performance gap, because a lot of us walk through life, with the tunnel vision thinking, yeah, I got this and I'm all, I know I'm doing everything that I need to be doing and I'm doing it right. And it isn't until you reach out and you get that perspective from the folks around you that you realize you're not. So one of the things that he got was he was very much an old school. He was a retired Defender, security forces guy.
Cool.
And one of the comments, or actually 3 of the comments that were on his assessment were how he handles people when they cry in front of him. And he had that mindset. He was very much a go fix your face kind of guy, go fix your face. But what that did by talking about that is it allowed us to generate a conversation and have that discussion, because all too often, if you get really good at this, yes, you can recognize the emotion, you can control the reaction, and you can have a positive outcome from the situation, but you still need to go back and really process that emotion and what happened a lot of times. And that's where absolutely you go back and if you need to go have a good cry, man, you got to go have a good cry. If you are in a situation and it's so overwhelming that you need to cry, it may or may not be appropriate given where you are. But, I have a lot of folks that are in my office talking about a lot of real stuff and a lot of real problems. And guys and gals, it really doesn't matter. The tears will come if the situation warrants it. And so, yes, we talk to it, but if you bring it up, then we talk even more about it in the class.
So I would like to, let everybody know you are a first sergeant, right? And not just a first sergeant, but the first sergeant, right? and then have the audacity to make senior master sergeant, right? So congratulations. Yeah.
We're not supposed to talk about that yet.
It don't matter. No. They need to know, right?
No, thank you. I appreciate that.
It's very much well deserved. But what I would like to talk on, kind of like what you were speaking on, when individuals come into your office, because you are a maintainer by trade, but if you go to a organization that's a little bit more
Philly and hey, shirt, I got this you know what? No disrespect to anybody out there that's in touch with their feelings. However, how do you balance that as a shirt, the emotional, but then the logic behind it? For example, you did something wrong. That's black and white. However, I want to know why. So what else is going on? Because I think if you don't have that type of talk, then you won't see the person behind the conviction or behind the whatever the issue is. Yeah. So how important do you think that is, especially being a first sergeant?
Oh, it's the most important. Where we get ourselves into trouble is when we don't do that, when we don't ask those questions and we don't search for the why behind it. Nobody, to my knowledge, and I feel pretty confident saying this, I don't think anybody gets up out of bed, in the morning saying, today's the day. I'm gonna go screw up my life today. Today's the day. I'm gonna go
about to tear it up.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Even when you and I will definitely expand on that, because even outside of the Air Force, when you look at areas where we have kids that are making poor life decisions each and every single day, if you tear that back and you look at why that's happening, there's an emotional component to that, and there's a reason for that, and it's often like a survival reason, or they're just trying to get by or to get through long enough to half of them don't even know where they're going or what they're working towards. It's just a survival thing, and all that's driven by the emotional piece, right? So when you get them in the Air Force, and probably the most disappointing thing that I've seen a couple of times now from my position, and even as recently as the last year, is when you get a young man or a young woman who comes from a very tough, rough, street background, in and out of those violent situations and that decision-making process, right? And they continue to use that decision-making process because despite what we believe, basic training in tech school is not enough to remove 17, 18, 20-plus years of life and suddenly make somebody, into a good thinker. We don't teach that, right? And you can't really sit down and just teach that in a setting. They've got to go through and learn that with a support system. But for those that can't get outside of that, those are the ones that unfortunately they wind up digging that hole. And I don't think we have enough people in our Air Force right now that are capable of really rescuing most of those young folks from themselves. And so what you find is they're not looking at that emotional component of things, what's happening, what's driving the actions, what's driving the behavior. Having the conversations of, okay, you don't live there anymore, man. Like you're done. You came here, and you came here to get away from all that. So why are you putting yourself in a position where you're going to go back to that?
That's right.
And if you don't have that conversation soon enough, and you don't draw the line and hold the accountability soon enough, and a lot of folks are afraid to do that because they don't want to write paperwork or they're too lazy, whatever it looks like. If you don't do that with people and you don't understand them, then you're just going to mistreat them, not beating them with a stick or anything like that, but you're going to mistreat them. You're going to mishandle them. You're not going to give them what they need to grow and to be effective because you never took the time to connect and figure out what's driving, again, the thought process and the behavior. I hope that answers the question.
That was good. Yeah, that was good.
So I got a question for that because I was having a conversation earlier with a buddy of mine about just connecting with folks, right? Especially with the example you gave with folks coming to the military and you don't know their backgrounds, but we think basic training and then maybe tech school kind of fixes all that and make them blue. Yeah. That's not the case. It takes years for some people to turn that switch off or even change that culture. So when we talking about emotional intelligence, I think that, I don't know if it's put on in basic training in tech school, like do they educate early on about that kind of stuff? But I think it's definitely need to be hashed out if it hasn't at that level. But when we're talking about emotional intelligence, my question was, even though we are driven by AFIs and the black and white, if you did this wrong, here's the consequences of it, because that was how we was raised, especially for the seasoned folks. But how do you connect empathy with that? Because yes, this says you can't do this, here's the consequences of it, here's the accountability piece of it. But how do you get to the root cause is what I'm getting at, like the root cause and digging into why you made that decision.
And also, too, it's a gray area.
Yes.
So if you look at any AFI, there's always supplements. But what's not inside of in the AFI is, what if this happens? Yeah. What if that happens? So does that mean, hey, is it binary? right and wrong, right? You're in or you're out type of thing. So how do you, to what he's saying, how do you gauge that?
Hey, for our non-military listeners,
AFIs
are
you committed the sin.
AFIs are instructions that Air Force members must that govern us.
Yep.
That's what
it governs.
Yes,
pretty much.
It does.
So, and just to make sure that I understand the question and what I was going to ask you in return on that is, so your question is really how do we balance the humanity with the rules?
Right. That's right. Exactly.
And I think the first thing that is so critically important for anybody who's going to be in a position of authority, let alone in influencing as a leader, whether it's laterally down, up, doesn't matter. The rules in terms of what you're talking about within the Air Force, although some of them are rooted in legal guidance coming from DoD and all that other Department of Defense and stuff like that, absolutely there's a lot less wiggle on those. But man, people just do not understand that those things are written with intent. They are written as a set of guidelines for you to be an adult and to be a decision maker and to take charge and to take ownership of whatever your area of responsibility is. And where I see folks get tripped up in that, and I think coming back to your question is when you are so caught up on policy that you forget about people. Right. When you begin to prioritize policy and you no longer prioritize people, now you're stepping in the realm of I'm not a big right-wrong guy, but you're stepping in the the wrong realm at that point. Can you dig it?
Yeah, like that one. Yeah, that was good because that's missing. That is truly missing.
So I'm going to hit off a word that my man Larry over here talked about, empathy. Through suicide awareness training, we watched a video about what's the difference between empathy and sympathy, right? Are you familiar with that video? Like it's like a bear walking around. They give you a part of you, you know what I'm saying, showing that they feel with you and whatnot. Yep. Do your emotional intelligence class does it correlate? Does it link with like suicide awareness in the Air Force today? Because I'm of the belief that most of the suicides that's happening in the Air Force is not really duty related, but still emotional ties, emotionally related. Yeah. Can you speak on that?
Yeah, so for the most part, we've been talking about self-awareness and self-management. So we'll flip over to the social competence piece of it, which is your social awareness and then your relationship management. And so and Larry, you were in my Everyone Communicates View Connect class, which is it's not an EQ class, it's a John Maxwell curriculum or content, but it speaks directly to what's missing, and a lot of that is the connection. But at the core of connection is emotion. You cannot impact somebody, you can't influence somebody, you can't lead somebody, you can't do anything with a person except make them feel bad or order them around, and that's a temporary solution. You're very ineffective until you take the time to connect with them on an emotional level. So yes, absolutely, we talk about that because the core of social awareness is recognizing emotions in others and being able to look at those cues. And we talk about them to death when it comes to suicide awareness and checking your buddy and if they're a happy-go-lucky type of person and then suddenly they tank, something's probably wrong. But what we don't do is look for the more subtle realities of when people are actually going through stuff. Yeah. And so until you train yourself to really acknowledge how many different emotions can be going on, and actually now that we're talking about this, just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about when I'm talking about emotions. So that's everything. These are the ones that we default to a lot, like happy, sad, angry, stuff like that.
You can read it. They can't see that. Read it. So what you see?
It's like a million of them on here. So happy is like high, is elated, excited. Another example for medium, they're just cheer, mild, glad, but it goes in intensity of feelings, shame.
Yeah.
What did you want to touch on? I'm not an expert. I can barely read, man.
So that's what I wanted to touch on, though. Just think about your reaction to seeing that many words to describe emotions on a piece of paper, right, or on a screen. Yep. And this is, unfortunately, we default to these top ones. And so I'll give you a personal example. My wife and my daughter also, but my wife really will struggle with if she feels like public embarrassment. Like embarrassment's a thing, right? Yeah. And her embarrassment only manifests in one way, and that's anger. Like it's anger. Now, if every time that happened, the only thing that I focused on was that she's angry, I'm never actually going to go after the root cause. Right, I'm never going to know what's going on. because I'm not actually looking at what's driving that. And so after it happened a couple of times and you dig down deeper, I'm like, oh, it's because of this. And so now I'm much more cognizant and aware of when we're in situations, what is the outcome of this and how will this make her feel? Will it make her feel that negative emotion? And can I avoid that altogether if I just pay a little more attention or do a little bit extra with it?
And so that's good.
Yeah, this conversation would have saved a lot of relationships.
A whole lot of lives too, right? So with that being said, in my mind, you have to not just connect with an individual, but connect with them with already having an intent in your mind. So if you want a person to do A, B, and C, you need to know what to avoid, because now you've learned, but we've talked offline about asking those questions. Yeah. Hey, how do you feel when you're upset? Or what do you do? I'm sorry, not how do you feel, but what do you do? How will I know that you're upset? So it goes both sides. So not only am I asking you so I can become more emotionally aware or intelligent about you, but you will know more about yourself and you can communicate that to me. How important do you think that aspect is?
So that's, if everybody would just do that.
Yeah.
I mean, especially, if you just watch, and I'll tell you, that's the conversation I have with my boss when we do that initial feedback and we're setting expectations. And I always tell them, here's the biggest thing you need to know about me. If I go quiet, you screwed up. Yep. If I go quiet, you did something wrong and something's broken between us. And my expectation for you as my boss is to meet me wherever I am in that point and fix it. And if you choose to let it go and not fix it after I tell you exactly, after I arm you with this information, if you choose not to fix it, now you're speaking to me louder than words are ever going to speak to me, because now you can't claim ignorance. You can't claim, oh, I didn't know. No, I'm telling you exactly what it looks like when I'm upset and when things are broken between us.
A lot of our junior people, junior airmen, they need to hear that because they're not going to have the courage to say that to their supervisor. They normally go, I'm cool, everything is all right.
Yep.
You know what
Thumbs
I mean?
up, shirt.
Yeah,
everything's good.
Everything's cool. But man, if they would kick it to them just like that, that would solve a lot of problems, because supervisors, they don't know either. You know what I mean? Like if they see you shutting down, they think you got an attitude problem.
Yep.
Right? And they're judging, they're going off the reaction, not the root cause. Yeah. So they're trying to address the reaction. When you got an attitude problem, you know what I mean? Why don't you fix whatever's going on with you, not knowing why they're acting like that.
And not even thinking that they just might be the cause of
it.
Mm-hmm. So not just the junior members, but even in relationships. Yeah. If you can't have that conversation to say, hey, this is how I feel when this happens, but not necessarily talking down to a person or to who you would say, hey, you're hearing me, right? And then you go back and forth with that. Now, moving forward, if it happens again, one of two things is in my mind is going to happen. Either, hey, I forgot, I'm sorry, we did have that conversation, or you blatantly didn't care.
Forget what you feel.
Exactly. Yeah. So those are the type of conversations that we kind of dance around, expecting you to already know how I feel because we've been together. No, this isn't a read your mind. You get what I mean? Yeah. So even though we've been together, but how connected are we so that you can pick up my cues, say, you know what, he's tripping right now. Let me give him his space and kind of chill on out. Or I see she's cleaning up, even though the house isn't dirty, but she's cleaning up. Something's on her mind. So let me give her the space to come and connect, right? Just to do that.
Yeah, and I want to flip that completely around 180 degrees too. Man, I can't tell you how many times I get asked the question, how do I deal, and I hate this word. I hate this word. How do I deal with toxic leadership?
Oh my God.
How do I deal with toxic leaders? Toxic.
Oh, man. Everything is toxic.
Yes. And so, and as much as I can't stand that word though, it's a problem. But when you take a look at why that happens, it happens not because that, every now and then you'll get somebody who's just a complete jerk, right? And they live their life to be a jerk. And those folks, the only solution is to cut them out in whatever way you got to do it. And that's where we need to rely on senior leaders to do their jobs and make those decisions. But for the most part, toxic leaders are just ignorant leaders. And they just don't know the effect and how they're actually making people feel.
Hold on. Wait, hold on.
That's important.
Yeah, it is. Pause on that. Hey, I want you guys to know, if you see the number at the bottom, make sure you call if you got a question, right? And also to our fifth caller, you will be able to win a shirt, right? Not first sergeant, but from the Lions Den, okay? But yeah, if you got a question to ask, the numbers below, 618-792-6747. We want to give you guys the opportunity to call. But what do you think about that?
Yeah, so this is where EQ comes into play, because the more you are understanding your emotions, you can now control how you have those conversations. Because what happens, most of the time, people are either too afraid or conflict avoidance to even get into that situation to begin with. And that, again, that's emotionally driven. It's a fear thing. They're afraid to do that because they don't know what the outcome is going to be. Whether that's just the actual conflict itself, or my career is going to be over, or it's going to affect my EP, whatever that winds up looking like. But if you know that and you can control that, right, and so you work on being able to control that emotional reaction, now you engage that toxic leader and you sit down and you have a conversation. And the easiest thing to do that a lot of people just can't get to this point is sit down and say, do you know, are you aware that you are a jerk face? I mean, don't put it like that, but are you aware of how you make people feel? Yeah. And I guarantee you, in every situation I've ever been in where I've had this conversation, the answer has always been
nobody ever told me.
No. What do you mean? What are you talking about? What do you mean how people feel? And then you can start expanding into that. And that's where you really, you try to take a coaching mindset and you try to ask questions so they get to thinking and they're trying to get to those answers themselves while you're trying to do that. You don't have to be higher ranking. You don't have to be a peer. Anybody can do that. You just have to be confident. You have to start the process. And as long as you're not going in there ready for combat, and you're not armed up and ready for a fight, and you just go in with a conversation, a lot of times that will get you your foot in the door, and then you can start having those talks and start addressing that toxicity with the leader. But yeah, I mean, it's usually that's step one, and unfortunately, there's just not enough folks that do that. And I will tell you, I've been the part of many removals and firings over the last couple of years, and a lot of them when they're at those higher ranks, whether it's senior master sergeants, chief master sergeants, when it all starts coming out, they're so surprised. Yeah, they're so surprised, and it catches them off guard. And they literally, and that's where the emotion, that's where the EQ comes into play for me, because I know they're not just joking, or they're not just trying to lie or act like they like they knew the whole time, but they didn't know. No, they really didn't. They got the blinders on.
What's sad is not. I've worked with people. Well, I've been in class with people that said out of their mouth that they expect the people to adjust to them, though. Yeah. Like I don't need to understand where they're coming from. They joined the Air Force. You know what I mean? Like they need to adjust up. Yeah. Which to an extent is kind of true. But when you start losing connection with your airmen and thinking, nah, I'm not really worried about how you feel.
And that's forcing them to conform.
That's where the true toxic leadership is. So how do you deal with that as far as, controlling your emotions and handling that toxic leader?
So for those folks, a good question to ask them is, how did you get where you are? How did you come? Because there's 1,000,001 ways to find success in the Air Force, right? And right now, we very incorrectly define success as stripes on sleeve by time and service.
Very incorrectly, correct.
And we're getting away from that. There's been some really good folks up at half now for the last couple of years that are swinging us in a different direction on thinking that way, which is awesome. But it's still out there, and it's still a big thing. And so the first question I ask when I see these folks is how did they get there? Because a lot of times, historically, we promote based off of IQ-based technical proficiency. We promote based off your ability to perform tasks and performance. And we consider performance to be how well do you do the work.
That's right.
And so you have a lot of folks that are very, very intelligent and that have been doing a lot of great work, and they've done a lot of good stuff for the Air Force, but they have never been in a position to lead people. They've been promoted because they've just been very, very good at what they do. And so then we start talking about underdeveloped leaders, right? Because now we're putting people into positions of authority, but they're not actually leaders. And that's when you start to, then they just start doing what they've always done. Because of how they operate and because of how they do things, Their mindset is, yeah, I adjusted to everybody that's ever been in charge of me, and that's why I've been successful. So why wouldn't everybody else want to do the exact same thing and adjust to me and be successful like me? And it's really as easy as that. But
it's a bad cycle.
Yeah. And then now you're on the merry-go-round.
So we got a question from Miss James. How you doing? And also I want to appreciate everyone for tuning in. That's on live. Make sure you give your area code where you're at. But anyway, Miss James, she says, so how do you deal with leadership that know that they are toxic and even stated that they've been told that before, but refuse to change?
Especially that last part. They refuse to change
because they heard it.
Yeah, they know.
Yeah, they know, but they choose not to. What do you think about that question?
So
how do you deal with that?
It's so tough. So this is where I go back into the jerks, right? This is where we're talking about the jerks. And this is, unfortunately, when you have somebody that is vocal, and they are self-aware, so they can't claim ignorance. They've been told, and they have all that information, and they're still choosing deliberately to continue doing things like they're doing them. That's when you need to reach out and start exploring some different processes that are in place, and you probably need to step out. That's where you can legitimately come in and go to the next level up in command and start talking to the boss's boss, and driving those conversations. Or, again, we have an inspector general and we have unbiased third parties that are completely outside for a reason. You just got to be careful with going out there. And this is the thing I always tell people. Every time I've ever heard somebody say, I'm going to the IG, absolutely, go to the IG. Go to the inspector general and go do that. That's your right. And in fact, let me prep you for success, because you need to go in there and know exactly what you're trying to communicate, what the problem is, and why it's a violation of something. But yeah.
And make sure your emotions are not in it.
Absolutely.
Right? Fact-based.
Absolutely.
So I have a question for you. So we're talking about EQ, emotional intelligence, and whatnot. For first timers, this first time hearing this emotional intelligence, where can they find information about this so that they can get educated themselves to not only learn about themselves, but to how to articulate it to others that they interact with? It's a relationship, work, whatever.
Yeah. So the book that all of our curriculum is based off of, it's Emotional Intelligence 2.0. It's by Dr. Travis Bradbury and Dr. Gene Greaves. Very, very good place to start. Inside that book, when you get it, there's a code for you to take a self-assessment and kind of learn more about you. There's a nonprofit company that's called 6 Seconds. Their website, they have a lot of free resources that are on it. Very, very much worth checking out. Talent Smart's website, they have a bunch of free articles that actually talk about individual specific situations, difficult leaders, things like that. Those are where I would start. If you're at Scott Air Force Base, pay attention to the development calendar, or hit me up or our violence prevention folks, because we do the classes regularly. And I've been in units and done focused efforts within units that have had challenges. And yeah, love it. Absolutely love it. So tons of resources there.
Thank you for that.
Good. What you got, huh?
Question.
We got a statement.
A couple.
Yeah, we got a couple of them.
Yeah,
all right.
okay.
Yeah, we appreciate. Okay. When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. Everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way.
So I want to talk to that, because that's an extremely good point. And that's that's awesome. And thank you for putting that up there, because I will say, and I know I kind of threw out the other options when you're dealing with somebody in a different direction to go, when you absolutely, because I'm in my mind as a first sergeant, I'm all like, okay, we take people to a certain point, but if they need to go, they need to go. And that's how I operate every day. However, for me, the responsibility is just as much on me to adapt. If I can't get through to somebody, there has to be, it doesn't matter who you are, there's a commonality, there's a common thread between you and that person. You may not recognize it, you may not realize it, you may not even want to think about it because you hate them so much. There's something there that's a commonality between the two of you. And if you can find that and you can focus on that, then things start to become more positive, and then you may even find yourself in a better situation with that person. But yeah, your attitude, nobody controls your attitude except for you. And so for me, and Seth, we've talked about this to death. If you don't know your why, if you don't know your purpose, if your actions and your life is not aligned with that why, whether it's, faith-based, God put me here to do this, whether it's science-based, I'm a unique blend of these, biological functions, and so that means that I'm capable to do this, whatever that looks like, that needs to be your focus on everything in your life. And once you do that, all the negative becomes filtered through that, and now you just start looking at it as, okay, I have all the rest of this stuff. This is just a challenge for me. This is just a learning opportunity for me. This is just something that I'm going to go through because I'm being tested, and because this is a growth opportunity for me.
Absolutely.
Because if you're uncomfortable, you're growing.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You have to be uncomfortable, and then you have to be able to take that will.
Yeah.
Because if not, then you're going to be driven by everyone else based off of what they expect you to do, and then you're going to be there in turmoil. So we got any final going on?
That's one more. Sierra.
Yes, Sierra.
Sierra. What'd she say? Okay. She said, I was having a conversation about this generation of leaders. All right. I believe it's the culture that is dwindling, and the current airmen who will be in their roles, all right, will manifest a new era of the Air Force where the old ways will weed out. In time, let me get it. Here it is. All right. In time, the toxic will fade, and it will take some commitment on both parts. However, the older generation needs to understand their role in molding the future leaders to take their place.
Yeah, I got a story about that right there. Juan Lewis, he told me, are y'all familiar with Juan Lewis? Fired Up Chief?
The Fired Up Chief.
Oh, yeah.
So he gave me a story one day about some kid came to him talking about, hey, Chief, what you know about dabbing? Right? And he said, I don't know, but can you show me?
There we go.
He said it wasn't about him trying to learn to dab. It was about him trying to connect and let him know, like, look, what's important to you is going to be important to me too.
That's good.
And so when it's talking about the old ways, and older people need to understand where their role is, it's like, look, like we talked about a little bit earlier, adaption goes both ways.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Not just one way down. Like if they come up to you and ask you about a dab, it's not going to hurt your feelings to put your little arm like this for a little bit for them. And you gain that person. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So
You might open up a conversation later on.
Right. They know they can relate to you a little bit.
That's right.
Make you approachable. Yeah.
Right. And then I know we talked about this too, and I'm going to wrap it up. We can go back around, but being able to connect with an individual during peacetime at work. So therefore, if you have to deploy or do things that's more stressful, either here or downrange, I feel more connected with you because we talked about dabbing, or we talked about why Detroit is better than Tennessee football, whatever the case. Yeah, I said it. But anyway, but at the end of the day, if we can have that type of conversation, now I see that you see me behind this uniform. And then now I can learn more about the military from your point of view since you've been in longer. Now we're connecting. What you think? How important do you think that is?
No, I again, you talk generations, right? We like to talk about generations. We have 5 generations in the workforce today, and all of the things. And when I hear people talk about generations, I don't want to take anything away from them because they're real. The differences are definitely real, and especially when you are thinking strategically about how you are going to do things 5-10 years from now, how you're going to get with that audience now. But the thing with that is generational differences go out the window the minute you focus on connection with people.
There you go.
And the minute you just focus on the person that's in front of you, and you take the time to meet them where they're at, it doesn't matter what generation they are. It doesn't matter who they are. It doesn't matter culturally where they're from. If you take the time to meet them where they are, you're going to be successful. And so often we just, unfortunately, we're caught up in what I call the work, right? Everybody's worried about the work. And because we're worried about the work, we forget to worry about the people and make that the priority.
There you go.
That's good. That's good. Anything?
I don't think that was a good show.
That was real good. Hey, we want to thank you for coming through and,
I'm so happy you asked me to come out here.
No, but seriously, it means a lot because we do talk about emotional intelligence so much, but we really don't get down into the weeds as far as not just what it is, but how beneficial it can be to the individuals you work with day to day and the person that you live with every day. So I do appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time out, coming to the Lions Lions Den again.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Bit, you
My
know
pleasure.
what I mean? But
No, this was awesome.
We appreciate that.
Next time, stronger than coconut water.
Right on, right on. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're getting ready to transition over to the next topic, which will be single mothers. But before we go into that, we did have the first month brunch at Kevlar's Grill. Did anybody go? Did you go to it?
I missed this time. I'm kind of kicking myself for that.
Okay. Well, listen, if you guys haven't been, make sure you plan for this every first and third Sunday, and the food is amazing. So that's kevlarsgrill.com. You make sure that you go online and check out their full menu, and every day throughout the week, instead of Fridays, because that's Fish Friday, but they change up the menu. It's specials every day, and it's only $9.99. So make sure you do check them out. And then they do have Grubhub. Make sure you use them. They can come on base in 25-mile radius. And we will be right back.
Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button now. The Lion's Den podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. Now, back to the show.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we want to welcome y'all back to the other half of the Lion's Den. But before we go into it, I want you guys to know, if you haven't checked out the bow ties that we have in the reel, this my man's. He has his own company where he makes custom made bow ties, and he sponsored the Lion's Den. So I want you guys to check out the Arrogant Accessories on Instagram. Is awesome, I'm telling you. And because of the show, if you guys go to his site and pick any bow tie and you put in the code Lion's Heart in all caps, you will get 10% off. I'm telling you, they out cold. Hey, you like bow ties, bro?
Man, I ain't got no neck.
You ain't got no-
I'm gonna try, man. I'm gonna wrap it around the bottom of my chin.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Oh wow. Hey, well, listen, guys, we're going to get it rolling. So we have our guest here. Not only we got Herm, we got Miss Anita, but we also have Miss Angel. How you feeling, ma'am?
What's going on?
You doing
What's going
good?
on? It's been a minute, right?
Yeah, it's been a minute. So this segment, we're talking about single moms.
Single moms, I know.
Single moms.
Oh, too much about that.
I bet, and I think we do in our own realm, right? But you have something else to add to it. What is that you have?
Couple things. So, not sure if you guys can see this, but the book is Where Did Daddy Go? There are two versions. The original version is here. It's based off of divorce and separation. And then we have the deployment version based off of military kids dealing with their parents deploying. So both of these are written and co-authored by myself and my 10-year-old daughter, Lauren, and it's from her perspective. So how she felt
that's different
when it went from a two-parent household to a single-parent household, as well as, okay, well, why does my daddy have to deploy? Why can't this person's daddy deploy? And the role he plays in her realizing, okay, this is really important, so I'm being selfish right now type of deal. So definitely, like, she did her thing with that one. So
okay. So what was your why?
My why was more to be therapeutic to her. Let her ask those questions and let her kind of get her thoughts down. Initially, when I told her that I was actually going to publish it, she was kind of nervous because she was embarrassed. Like, I don't want people to know how I felt, especially like her schoolmates and things like that. So I had to talk to her. You shouldn't be embarrassed that this happened, because you can take what you went through and help someone else who may not be dealing with it as well as you did and help them get through it. So now that she understands that, she's excited about it. So actually we had an event at church, and it was this little girl legit almost made me cry. Like, she had read the book already, and getting to see and meet my daughter and know this is the person who's in this book. I said, hey, would you like to take a picture with us? She said, can I just take a picture with her?
There you
I was
go.
like,
I saw that.
I was like, I cannot like stand between that. Go ahead. Like, I will take the picture. So her grandma was there. she took the picture, and then she gave my daughter like a bear hug at the end. And I'm like, okay, get it together.
Yeah, sometimes you don't know the effects.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't know the effects. But
Is the mic?
go ahead.
Hey, so real quick, I seen your Operation Hope.
Operation Provide Hope.
Okay.
Yep.
So I love the concept that you got going on. It's a donation, and it's going to provide books to schools, right?
Yep.
Can you speak a little bit about that?
Okay, so Operation Provide Hope is something that I put together. Like being military, having a name behind something, it means something to people. So knowing that the proceeds that from the book or any other swag, the shirts, the pens, the cups, whatever, that goes towards us providing free books to local elementary schools around the U.S. So it doesn't have to be here in Illinois. If you saw, I put out a post, hey, shoot me the name of some elementary schools. And I was like, okay, I'll take the top 15. And then people started like sending $40, $50, $80. And I'm like, yo, okay. I'm like, okay, so I need more schools. Or if I talk to somebody in passing, hey, do you have a child in elementary school? What's the name? Type of deal. So it's definitely getting some traction behind it. A couple people have reached out to me to come and speak to their school. And actually, if I can bring my daughter as well, that way they can see, okay, this is the actual person behind this book. It's not just a character. Like, she's
good.
real.
So the question is, would individuals that don't know anything about the Air Force be able to still connect with the story in the book?
Yep. So the first one, if they are dealing with divorce or separation or whatever the case may be, they can see themselves in it. And then with deployment, they don't have to be military. Like, it breaks it down. Okay, this is a deployment. This is how long mommy or daddy is usually gone. Speaking of, so where did daddy go? I spoke with the Airman Family and Readiness Center, and they said, hey, like, would you mind like making it more like gender neutral, saying, hey, where did you go? And I was like, absolutely. So right now I have in the works, where did you go? I have the title waiting in my inbox, and I sent over the pictures and had them flip-flop to from daddy leaving to mommy leaving and daddy staying behind.
That's good.
So that's coming soon too. Whatever I can do to reach the masses is what I want to do.
Absolutely.
The original one is therapeutic for my daughter to get her story out there. But if we can reach more people by making it more gender neutral, then I'm all for that as well.
Awesome. That's good. What you think?
I think it's great. From the moment that I've known you was doing it, I was like, I know she's going to knock this out the park, and I'm following it the whole way through. So I'm there, any way that I can support, buy books. I can't read that well, well stated, but any way that I can help, I'm really in the corner rooting for you. You need to stop biting my style though. I wore that jacket first.
Yo, I looked on Facebook and I was like, this dude got my jacket on.
Listen.
I had to look in my closet. I
didn't know it was
yo.
unisex. Now I don't know.
Hold on, because that's what I was gonna say. Who got it first, and where did you get it from, and where did you get it from?
I'm like Ray J. I hit it first.
You know what? Hey, look, somebody's out of line with it. So, Ms. Anita, how important is it to have that type of connection with your child, understanding that?
You know what? I was just about to say I really commend you for what you do and for writing this book, because I'm going to tell you, when me and my ex got divorced, that wasn't a conversation that me and my daughter had at the time. Guaranteed she was only about 4 or 5. But we didn't have that conversation. We didn't say, hey, mommy and daddy are getting divorced. We actually still lived under the same roof until till we both deployed. So it's more like, hey, mommy and daddy aren't going to live together anymore. It wasn't, we're not together. It wasn't a conversation of us being divorced or not. So I commend you for what you're doing, and thank you for bringing awareness, to not only the military, but in general to the population, this world.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I appreciate it. So a little... it's a known fact to some people, but unknown to others. So 50% of marriages end in divorce, and 40% of kids are born out of wedlock, outside of that 50%. So if you think about it, there are so many children out there who are feeling what my daughter was feeling, but they may be ashamed to say it, or they may not have that healing. Okay, I can talk to mommy about this, or hey, I feel comfortable saying that I miss daddy. Some kids, like, they aren't able to say, hey, I miss my mama or I miss my daddy. Like, they can't even talk about that person in the other person's presence. So it's all about bringing awareness that they need both of their parents. Like, they need the mother as well as the father. So you need to put yourselves aside and come together with that common goal in being there for the child.
Okay. So look, I know that you're pressed for time, but where can individuals find your book?
So they can find it either on Amazon or angellove.online. If you want to follow the Operation Provide Hope, my Cash App is $ABC251. Whatever you want to contribute, whether it's $1, 50 cents, or whatever the case may be. Just know that the books are going to local elementary schools, and they appreciate it. I've gotten so many emails, phone calls saying thank you so much, because I also provide a letter saying, hey, this is the book, this is the premise behind it, and because of individuals who are donating to Operation Provide Hope, we were able to send this out to your school.
Awesome.
Right,
Hey, congratulate you, seriously, because it's not easy.
Right.
It is not easy, putting it in that content, but also putting it in the book to be able to have that conversation, because there's individuals that's grown right now that never had that conversation, but now they're in positions of either leadership or influence that is changing other people's lives just because they haven't dove into that and had that, that conversation. But I want to thank you, man.
Emotional intelligence, where you go?
Yeah, emotional intelligence, absolutely.
Dab
it
on
is. Yeah,
You was listening.
Yeah, that is
right.
good.
Yeah.
That is good. But no, thank you. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you guys for having me. Got to go pick up the kiddos.
All
Sorry.
right, now we appreciate you. So back to you, ma'am. How does it feel? How does it feel being a young lady that's in the military, but you're single mother? How do you balance that?
So first, just want to put it out there. I might be a single mother, but I will say that my children's father is actively in their lives.
There we go.
So we co-parent very well. We still do family outings. He comes down for special events. He provides financially. We may not agree all the time, but one thing we do agree on is raising our daughters. So I did want to put that out there, that he's not a deadbeat. He's doing what he's supposed to be doing. But what were you saying? What was the question?
So how do you balance? Because even though y'all co-parent, well, he's not here, right?
He's not here.
Right.
He's in Right Pat.
All right. So how do you balance? What do you deem was important? What do you have to sacrifice as a single parent in the military?
So first things first, you have to have an amazing support system, because you cannot do it alone. That's something that I had to realize when I got here, because coming from Dover, I had an amazing support system, a support system that I didn't even have to ask for. But coming here, not knowing anybody, I had to basically start that from scratch. So that was really rough. And for me, I was going through a lot at that time that I PCS'd here, so that made it even worse for me to try to reach out to people to help me. So I kind of had to start, I always started at CDC and the youth center, finding somebody that already knows my kids to kind of watch them. So first things first, you just got to build up that support system. The second thing is you can't make excuses. That's one of my biggest things that I try not to do, even being a single mom. Like, everybody knows that I'm raising my kids by myself. But one thing is I try not to make excuses on why I can't do things. I mean, we're all in the military. We know it's a very demanding job, especially the job that I work right now. But I work steady hours, but it's rough because you working 9 to 5, 8 to 5. Then you come home tired, mentally exhausted. Then you got a whole nother job trying to get the kids in bed, trying to do school, trying to help them with their homework, trying to cook, clean. I'm going to tell you now, some days my house look a mess, but there's some of the sacrifices that you have to make if you want to do. Then when it was all studying for promotion, going through all that, I would tell you a lot of things that I did. I was struggling trying to maintain it. Like, I was pregnant, trying to study to make promotion and do everything that I need to do. I went through that. I studied for master, grieving my mom. Like, there would be days where I was sitting up there looking at that PDG crying through tears. But it's just things that you have to understand that you have to overcome if you want to be successful. So for me, I know the goals that I have in line, and I know my vision and where I want to go. So sometimes it's giving up those things that are important to me for, you know, my kids, having that balance. So that's one thing I really struggled with growing up. I didn't have balance. I would stay late knowing that I have kids at home. So it took for my mom to pass for me to realize, hey, my kids are, you know, they're number one to me, and my priorities are not aligned with how I'm acting, you know. So now you'll see I'm always with my kids. Like, I might work Monday through Friday, you know, they go to gymnastics, they do all these extracurricular activities, but on the weekends, I try to use my weekends for my kids, spending time with them, because this is just precious. I talked a lot.
No, that's good. No.
I do have a follow-up
ahead.
with the co-parenting thing. I do have a follow-up, because you say you and your ex has a great relationship. Y'all still do things together. Not to get all in your personal life, but how does that affect your dating? Does the person that you are, if you're seeing somebody, I'm not sure if you're single or not, but if has that ever affected your dating life, having that strong co-parent relationship with your ex?
Always.
How do you handle that?
With my last relationship, I put it out there. That's something I put out there. Hey, me and my children's father have an amazing relationship. We co-parent. Actually, when he comes, he stays at the house.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, I can see. Yeah.
But I'm gonna tell you, like, everybody, people that really know me, they know me and my, like, it's about the kids. It's not about us. It's strictly about the kids. So with my last relationship, like, he would kind of. He ain't really like that, but it was more, he wasn't trying to be vocal about it. He was just like, he kept, like, he would call. So it didn't work. It didn't work out. It didn't work out with the guy that I'm with now. He's actually a little bit more understanding, but I think me and my ex, it's easier. I think it's easier when we're both seeing people, because I think he's seeing somebody. So the last time he came here for the father-daughter dance, I was asking him if he needed anything. He said, I don't need nothing. You can go and come back on Sunday. And that's what I did. Like, I went my way, and he stayed at the house. I wasn't there with the kids. So, I mean, it struggles, but you just have to find somebody that understands, like, I don't want that man. He don't want me. We just want to raise our kids. You know, that's important to me.
That's good.
I know a lot of people that know, they look at our relationship really weird. Because we take family pictures and stuff, and a lot of people ask, like, does that confuse your kids? And I'm like, no, it doesn't, because my kids know I have a boyfriend. They know that, you know, he does what he do. He's not here. We're just weird. So
that was a big Facebook debate.
About what?
Family photos with when the parents are not together. That was a big Facebook debate, as if that's healthy or not.
So, and I would say, first of all, if you know what the end goal is, it's all about balance. It's all about balance. So you're not faking the funk, right? But at the same time, you want your kids to know it took two to make you, right? So you need to see this. And not just that, it was a time when you used to like it. You get what I mean? Right? So your kids, they're the product of either your love or just your moment of enjoyment, whatever that is. But for individuals to look at that and say, well, why are you doing that? I think if you put it out there in the public, people are going to have their own, assumptions. But as long as you're and the individual that you're co-parenting with and the children know what's going on, that's all that really should matter ultimately.
And I'll tell you what happened with the picture thing. We weren't even doing that at first, but what happened was Zalea had to take a family picture to school. And the only family picture I had, I gave her the one of just me and the girls, me, her, and her sister. And she said, Mommy, Daddy's not in this picture. So the last one that I had when Livy was first born, that was the last time me and him took family pictures. So I called him and I was like, hey, the next time you come down here, we need to take family pictures. And I told him why. And he was like, okay, cool. So it's really about the kids. Yeah, it's not about us.
I absolutely agree with that. I think that it's important for kids to know that they would conceive out of love, or, even if it wasn't, that them two people cared about each other. And for a kid to be able to see both their parents inside of a photo, at the very least, if y'all don't even give a damn about each other, they can at least look at the photo and be like, that's my mom and my dad.
Yeah.
Because it happens every day. But people taking pictures, they don't care about it. Like, look, all right, right after this, you go where you got to go because you get on my nerves. Right. Now, but at this time, we're going to take this picture together because it's the memory that we want to give them.
And it takes growth. You can't be bitter, because if I really believe, like, if me and him still like had feelings and stuff for each other, we wouldn't be able to do that. But we both just living our lives. It's about our kids.
Wow.
It wasn't always like this. Now I'm telling you, it wasn't always like this.
So back to the single motherhood, because not everybody is gonna have a good support system like you, or a great co-parenting situation. You know, some people have a real hard time. Because I know when my mom first got divorced, she had a hard time. Didn't know anybody, living in a trailer, and didn't even barely know English. You know what I mean? A single mother of 2 American black kids in this trailer park, right? What advice would you give them people that are struggling and think, man, there is no hope? I mean, she got it easy. You know what I mean? She's already got the support system in play, but I don't have that. You know what I mean? What avenues do I have? What can I do to get help for myself?
Man, I kind of drive off. I would say, look at your let your kids be your motivation. Let them. You want more for them. So try not to. I wish I knew any programs and support stuff that's out in the communities where they, tend. But I think support groups are everything. Looking out. So I know when I first got here, my daughter had another mother that was a single mom too. Me and her used to swap. Like we didn't like really hang out or anything. I mean, we started to once we kind of got to know each other, but we found somebody in our same situation and just kind of swapped with each other. So she would watch my kids one weekend. If she wanted to go somewhere, I would watch hers just to run errands. So that's something. Not being afraid to speak up and say, hey, I need help. Because that's something that I really struggled with at first.
Pride.
So not being too prideful to say, hey, I need some help. Knowing that you're not alone. It's a lot of us out there. Whether we in better situations or not, we all, being a single mom is not nothing new to society, to be honest.
Of course. So with that being said, how long do you think is a good time to introduce your kids to whoever it is that you're dating? Based off of you, because people are different, right? But how long did you wait, or do you give that a time frame? Is it like 60 days, 90 days, or whatever the case is, or do you want to just straight, I have this feeling this person is going to be here for a minute, so let me indoctrinate him around the kids? What is the time frame, if there is one?
It's more of a feeling. You gotta kind of. People crazy these days.
Very crazy. Very crazy. Yeah.
So I think it's really, you got to really get to know a person. So keep in mind, I haven't really, when I got divorced, I didn't really start dating until I got here. And I've been divorced for 3 years. So I didn't, my kids, my oldest, like, she knows, like, even when I'm talking on the phone, I have male friends. So when she sees me talking on the phone, she says, Mommy, who's that? I said, it's my male friend. So she kind of knows, like, Mommy has male friends, and she also, may have a boyfriend. So having that conversation, being transparent with my child, and kind of explaining to her, like, there's a difference, that kind of helped. But I'm not one of those people. I'll start talking to somebody and like, oh, hey, these are my kids. So with my last boyfriend, we were at long distance. So when he would come into town, I would try to find a sitter for that weekend. Before he met the kids. But it just so happened one time one of my sitters fell through, so I had to. And we did something kid friendly. But the reason why I don't necessarily think introducing your children to the person that you're dating is a bad thing, because I need to see how you're going to interact with my child. I need to see how my children interact with you. I need to see if there's a connection there with my kids. At the end of the day, I'm not dating just to be dating somebody. I'm dating because, I'm trying to get married. I want to be married again. I want to have another child. So, with that in mind, you kind of want to be, I think you should be aware of that kind of stuff and want to I ain't saying like the very first date you need to say I have, you need to meet my kids, but I think there needs to be kind of an understanding that, you should meet the kids. So whether that's 3 months, 6 months, a year, I think a year is too long. But I mean, if you're a single mom, dude should know you got kids. Like, and that's one thing that really bothered me with dating. Dudes did not understand, like, oh, what you doing tonight? You can't do that. I have kids. Like, I have a family. So they didn't understand, like, I can't just, get up and go. Like, they didn't never want to make plans out, like a week or so later. So that comes with that too. So I'm not saying it should be a time frame, but I think when it's time, it should happen just for those reasons.
My kids call me out on that, man.
What do you mean?
So, you met my daughters. My daughter's a little bit older. They've met 2 of my previous girlfriends in the past. And after my last one, they was like, you need to stop. You know what I mean?
What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you need to stop?
Like,
it's too many people?
They said, yeah, I think it was. It's like and then I had to think about it, man. I'm introducing it. Now, these people I lived with, so it wasn't like they were like part-time or nothing like that. But
swiping left.
Yeah, because I'm the master at that. Right. But my daughters hit me with, we don't want to be daughters of the player. You know what I mean?
And I'm glad you said that. And so that's what I was going to hit on. Like, I think it's different for single moms and single men, right? Because me being single, if I have my daughter, I have to be particular of how she see
mindful
me.
What you showing her.
There you go.
Right. So I'm thinking about. I was like, man, the next person that I introduce my daughters to is got to be a sure thing, and it's hard to tell. Like you said, it's a feeling thing. Yeah. Because the last thing I want to do is introduce my daughters to somebody else and it don't work out again.
And then they like them.
Yeah,
and they start falling for them.
Yeah, because I pick good quality women.
You know apparently not.
Well, for the time, man, you know what I mean? I pick good quality, you know what I mean? So they like them off bat, but it don't work out. And now they lose that attachment to that person. And my daughter's like, you need to not date. And they was advising me like, we think you got attachment issues.
Wait, your kids?
I was like, damn.
Your kids? Yeah. You know why? Because their moms is, she deal with crazy people, and she deal with you.
I like, y'all need to start watching YouTube.
No,
man.
Hey, well, listen, look. So we got a question from Sierra. She says, "What does one do when one parent is trying to facilitate a good parenting relationship, and the other is not looking at that as beneficial, as beneficial for the child?" Right. So I guess to bring that down to plain English, what do you do when the other person isn't on your page? When you're saying, hey, obviously we can't work, but let's work for the child. Have you that? Well, obviously not, but it took time though. So what happened?
So y'all know I'm a very so I think for one thing with me, what kind of made my ex kind of get on board is he I don't want to talk bad about him, but he did some stuff that just was really grimy at times. But I had to continue to be a good person no matter how he treated me. And I used to have a friend that kind of went through a similar situation where she was trying to, like she tried to kind of do my approach, but it wasn't working for her because her ex-husband wasn't really trying to be on that kind of co-parenting thing. When it's time for me to pick up my son, I'm gonna pick up my son. I ain't got to talk to you type of thing. So with that, I would say for them, it's just you kind of have to accept that person just not ready, because I think it's a maturity factor. Like some men look at it as they had kids with you, and as long as they taking care of their child, they don't have to deal with you.
So is there a time where first shout out to Sierra? That's one of my people right there.
And then there's still some people that feel like, well, I don't care who you messing with because that's my daughter.
Right.
I got priority. Oh, and I can hit it if I want to still. So you get what I mean? I said it, but it's people that think that way.
Once you have a baby with that person, you always got to end.
That's it. And I don't care whoever you're dealing with, they need to know. If not, now my ego is going to come out, and show that now. What do you think about that? Because that's a problem. Right? Yeah. It is. It's a straight up problem.
But that's on both parties, because you're saying that both think. So the guy think that just because they had a kid together, they still in there and can't.
Right, but the woman is more like, hey, we're just going to communicate and for our child, and we're just going to keep it pushing, But having an individual like that feel like they are entitled, so it's an entitlement piece, right? What do you think about that?
Man, you hit me with some hard questions.
Hey, that's what I do, baby.
Right. What you thought we was gonna come up here and talk about?
Yeah.
Guys, you got me stuck.
How you feel about it for real? You know what I mean?
Man, I think I think a lot of times you got to take feelings out of it, because I think with those kind of situations, it's feelings involved. And like you saying, ego. Yes. Like some folks they think, oh, that's still my baby mama. I'm still, like you were saying, that's still my baby mama. I'm still going to hit that. I don't care what you think. And, I think going into that with dating somebody, that's the same. That's what most dudes thinking. Oh, she's still messing with her baby daddy because they like that. Right. But you can't, I don't have that issue. So see, that's why it's hard for me to answer that question.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but so and I guess I threw that out there just playing devil's advocate, but also what would you tell an individual or a younger airman or someone that you know that's just recently got out of a relationship, but their other individual that they were in a relationship with isn't quite there? How would you help facilitate that for them?
So I would tell them it takes time. Sometimes everything is about. Sometimes you have to isolate yourself in order to get back on track with some of the things that you're dealing with. So if you're ever in that situation, you're about to go through a whole, like, especially after getting divorced, that's a whole new mentally, like, that's something mental that you're about to go through. You're about to go through I can't think of my words, but it's a whole change. It's a whole transition. So for me, you kind of, when I went through that, I was what's the word I'm searching for? I
went in your head once. I don't know.
I know. I took it. What am I trying to say? I overestimated the situation. I thought I was just gonna bounce back and be good. So you have to tell people that just get out of situations like that, they got to give themselves time to kind of go through the process
and to learn themselves now, because sometimes you forget who you were prior to, right? So
you
give
lose
yourself time. You lose yourself.
You lose
so you
yourself.
got to give yourself time to know who you are again.
Yeah, you got to find out.
You learn yourself. You got to also learn the person that you was just with, because they're going through a transition. So everything that you thought you knew about them, that's about to change too. You know what I'm saying? I think a lot of people don't understand that either. Like, no, I know he won't do that. He won't do that.
They true colors come out.
Damn right he will. You know
true
what I'm saying? Because
he's
still on. Especially in the beginning, they feel like that's still me.
So we got Miss Mish. She says, define personal boundaries. Treat it like business with the best interest of the child in mind.
So personal boundaries. So. Okay, so actually, me and my ex have this. So when we talk on the phone, so me and my ex we talk just about every day. It's always about the kids. Now I would tell you, I'm one of those people. I get nosy and I start like asking questions, not because I'm
yes, you do.
I'm nosy.
Shut up.
I'm naturally nosy.
Well, stop
so
it.
you know,
you
I
see
want to
that,
know.
don't you? You see that contradiction? Girl, get out of here.
Not necessarily like about what he's doing or who he's doing it with, but I'm just naturally like, how was your day? How did everything go? You know, and he'd be like, back to the, you know, he redirects me a lot, just because I just be trying to have a conversation. But we talk about the kids, so that's one personal boundary. Another personal boundary, like if we still let if I'm going out of town, I'll let him know that I'm going out of town and who's watching my kids.
That's good.
So that's something else. We don't talk about who we're dating or who we're with. If he asks he don't never ask. I'll tell him that I'm dating somebody, and it is, are they around my kids? And then that's a conversation that we have. But as far as like in the weeds, is this serious and stuff like that? Like we try to tend away from those questions. So anything having to do with like our relationships and stuff, we don't typically talk about. Those are like our boundaries.
So is it a personal boundary thing?
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Is it you got a caller?
Yeah, I got a caller.
Go ahead. Let the caller go in.
Okay, hey caller. So who is it? We got Miss Angela. What's going on?
Hey, what's going on? Y'all wait and get juicy after I leave, huh?
Look, I sure could have used you, sis.
Yeah, but go ahead. What you got?
So that's big when that mother-father bond is there, especially if you guys were married before. Like, it's so easy to do what's familiar. So that's why most people go back and they still deal with one another. I came front after my divorce. We were still dealing with each other back and forth until it was like, okay, you're not changing. It's confusing our daughter. So we have to figure out what we're going to do. Like, are we going to do this or are we not? If it's not, then we can't be physical anymore.
See, that's good. And look, and you got the babies in the back. Put them to
Show
sleep.
complete, baby.
Yeah, it's over. Put them kids to sleep.
The little one is following me around.
Yeah, go on and give them some tussing. It'll be all right. Put them to sleep. Hey, but thanks for calling, though.
All right, thanks.
So, yeah, back to that. I mean, how important is that to make that change? Not just a change, but to be able to have a working relationship.
I mean, like I said, it was hard at first because just my personality based off his personality, he very, like everybody that know Melvin know he just like he just cut it off. Like he don't have to deal with me if he don't want to deal with me. It's like my kids have cell phones, so if he wanted to talk to them, he could easily call them on their cell phones and stuff like that. So we don't really have to have the relationship that we have because like I said, there are other avenues. There's phones, they have iPads where he can FaceTime this and stuff like that. But I think it's important for my children to see that their mom and dad is cordial. Like even like for Disney, my kids are talking about going to Disney. They want to go to Disney. And I say, oh, well, I can take you. No, we want you and Daddy to take. Now that's a whole nother conversation that will need to be had since that's like a big thing. But it's not like we haven't done family vacations together. But it's like I said, it's those conversations and stuff. But like I said, he ain't got to deal with me if he don't want to deal with me. It's just for me, I didn't have a dad growing up. I had there with my younger brother dad was in our life for like a little bit, but I didn't have my dad.
Understand.
So to see my kids interact with their dad the way they do, like that tears me up because I love it. Like I didn't have that. So for me, it's important for my children to experience the love that their father gives them, like I said, because I just didn't have that, and that's something that I wish I had. So when I see them together, it's beautiful to me.
Right.
So whatever, and it's been times I've had to sacrifice how I felt in situations just so that they could be happy.
Can you dig it?
They need to know that. No, because that makes sense. Sometimes you have to.
You gotta be selfless. You can't think about yourself. I mean, because there's a lot of people out there that look at their kids as, oh, this is my paycheck, or they use it as, I don't want to say a lot. There's some people out there that's, if they're not paying that child support, you can't see this kid. You know what I'm saying? That's so to hear another avenue where somebody just loves to see that their child is interacting with their father, I think more people need to hear that, you know, and we do need to address that kind of behavior is when they use their kids as a pawn, like, you know, I need you to do this, you need to act like this, or you can't see this.
Or a wedge.
And I ain't gonna lie,
Yes.
I did that before.
Oh, okay.
But I was mad.
Speak on that.
Yeah.
What happened?
So I was mad and I was angry.
Okay.
Things weren't going my way, and I was mad because he wasn't doing what I wanted him to do.
Control.
So I was like, yeah, it was a control thing, and I would tell you, I was like that. I wasn't like that for long. But
no doubt.
I would say I was like that.
I'm glad that you're honest about that, and that you're speaking about it now. So you do recognize what that did for your kids, and
I said, yeah, don't worry about talking to them. Like, and this was in our early stages when we was like really like going at it.
Right.
I was like, oh, you don't want to do this? Don't worry about seeing your kids. But it was more so me not speak. It was more so me being angry. I was angry. I wouldn't say bitter, but maybe bitter. But I was maybe just a little bit, But
Just a taint.
just a
I'ma say it.
you know.
Yeah.
But I was angry, and you feel like a good dad wants to see their kids. So I know that if I can't hurt you with my words and the things that I'm doing and the way that I'm moving, I'm gonna hurt you by not letting you see your kids and not letting you talk to your kids. And I think sadly women do that today. I've heard some stories, and it's tragic. I tell my baby daddy he better be thankful every day, because some are not as nice.
You know what? He's lucky. He is lucky.
I think y'all are both lucky.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
The dynamic y'all got going on.
Right. But I mean, because I've been in a situation where me and my son's mother, we don't see eye to eye, and it creates a unnecessary tension between me and my son because he stays with her, and I don't know what he hears from her and how she communicates the type of man that I am. And then when it gets down to the point when me and him are talking, it's not about, hey, Dad, this is what I would like to learn from you. Is, hey, Dad, can you get this for me?
Right.
And it's like, damn, what the hell? Like, what the fuck? Like, what is she telling you? No, seriously, like, what is she telling you? Because if you understand the type of man that I am, and if she understood the type of man that I am, she'd know that I'm much more than just
some money.
And so I can tell him that until he's blue in the face. But when the phone hang up, he's back into that thought process. You get what I mean? And that sucks, man. It hurts, especially when you got someone out there that looks just like you, and you see yourself at that age. I remember where I was because my father was not there in my life, right? So here's a chance to be better, but to have that connection early on. So now we're cultivating a better relationship. Right. And now because I can see little things in him, like, you know what? Look at me. Yep, there it is. Right. Yeah, so let me help and get that. But I need the help from her to be able to communicate to it in her way as well.
Yo.
Boy, yeah, that hit a nerve.
And I'm going to tell you something that helped me too.
That did.
Something just based off how I was raised. Another reason why I don't really complain, I watched my mama raise 8 of us by herself. Damn. Guaranteed it was like maybe my youngest. I'm the 6th youngest.
6th youngest.
Yeah. Wow. So it's 2 girls.
I be trying to wonder why you're so small all the time.
We all small.
No. Y'all had to fight for food. That's what it was. Yeah. Nope, that's mine. Nope.
Yeah. Nah, so just seeing my mom, like she worked all day, and just to come home and feed us, like, you know, sometimes you know, we ain't had lights, we had to boil water and stuff like that, but just seeing how hard she worked for 8 of us. When I come home and I be complaining about just having 2, I remember like what she went through, and it kind of made me want to go harder just because I watched her struggle. You know, like I just want to, you know, if my mama could do it with 8, I can definitely do it with 2.
Right. Hey, so again, guys, if you guys want to call and either chime in or ask questions, the number is below 618-792-6747. But what you got, brother?
So, going back to the earlier question that I asked you about, so there are resources out there. We don't know them right off bat. I think I looked on Facebook and I found something for single mothers that is out there that doesn't have the proper support system. You think that's something that's everywhere, or how do you think they could just Google support systems for single mothers, and they probably had those kind of outreach programs out there, right?
I would hope so. I actually really need to look into that myself. I wish we had more things on base like that. I know some bases I've seen where they have support groups and things like that for single mothers and stuff like that. But that's another reason why I don't mind babysitting. Like I'll offer to babysit single moms' kids a lot just because I know how it feels. So I always be one to say, hey, do you want me to just watch it? I can watch your child for you, because I know like we need breaks too.
You know what? Since you said something, and since I'm crazy like that, I'll challenge you to be the catalyst.
Oh Lord.
See?
Yeah, hey, you dig what I'm saying? Because the thing is, not only is it working and for you, but now you can smartly talk about it and communicate with individuals that don't know, and then can create an environment. You can create your own meetup, if you will, but because if there's nothing on base that's having it, fill the hole. What you think about it?
You're right.
Wait. Can you do? Wait, ladies and gentlemen, watch this. I'm about to make sure I get it on it. No, I ain't gonna say if I can dig it, because you know I can dig it. I ain't got to ask because I know you can. But is that something that you like? If we can help you with that, do you think that's something that you would be interested in?
Most definitely.
Connecting with other women on base. You get what I mean?
You know, one of my C's for top 3 is connected.
Is a connectedness. That's right. Oh, but listen, now this is going to be outside of just this, right?
I'm serious. This is something, like I said, I'm passionate about. Like I said, I meet most of the airmen that I mentor. They are single moms, and I tell them all the time, like, you got to take care of yourself. Like we're very involved and we love our kids, but I know that sometimes we get so
inundated.
Like we forget that we have lives and that we're people too.
That's right.
So if we can definitely get a group together and make this happen, like I'm down.
I like the way he thinks.
You see that, don't it? It's about time to do it.
Let's not talk about what's not there.
Hey, and listen, that's what we do here at the Lions Den. I want everybody to know, and not only do we want to congratulate you guys for listening, but we also appreciate the support with even getting the apparel, but we challenge. Right? If this is about leadership, growth, development, and action, here's the action piece.
Right.
Because just like when we were talking about as far as emotional intelligence, once you know, then what do? You get what I mean? So other than that, if you're just talking and you don't do anything after that, you're just talking shit in my mind. So now let's put that, those words into actions and let's get busy, because you never know who you're going to help. Right. You never know who you're going to help.
I'll be the sergeant at arms.
Right. All right. Hey, I see you, Miss T. Mill. She says she'll help. So you see that, right? We building a team right now, everybody. It's happening. This is real time. But Hey, you got anything else to add before we wrap it up?
I appreciate your time coming in.
Hey, look, you the guy at the end. You know what I'm saying? Was you nervous?
I was.
Shut up. No, you weren't. No, you weren't. No, it was good. It was good. But hey, everybody, I want to thank y'all for watching another episode of The Lion's Den. But before we go again, I did speak a little bit on the apparel for the T-shirts, the Lion's Den with Seth shirts. We appreciate it. And not only is it helping to make this show better, but we're going to use the funds to connect with other individuals out in the community and the Relay for Life.
Relay for Life.
Relay for Life. And so we have a team together. It's the Lion's Den team. So everything that you do is giving back to the community. But I do want to give a special shout out on live to my grandmama, big grandma. Hey, big grandma, I appreciate it because what she did, she has been the biggest support system, not just in my life, y'all, but in general, from the book to the podcast and to everything else. She purchased a lot of shirts and to make sure that we are able to execute. So I appreciate everybody that's given. And did you get a shirt yet?
I didn't.
Too late. We got you one. All right. Just thank you for being a guest on the show because we did have it open for everybody else that was going to call, but y'all didn't. So we gave it away. Ha. Anyway, but again, though, so this concludes another episode of The Lion's Den, and we will see you guys next week. By the way, if you haven't received or got your ticket for the Party with the Purpose with the Q's, we're going to be there live next week. So make sure y'all tune in. If y'all don't know how they get down, But we're going to interview them, talk about the scholarships, the money that they're giving back to the community. You getting your ticket?
Yes.
You see how I put you on the spot?
I know, I saw that.
Yeah. But anyway, we're going to see y'all soon. We appreciate y'all for tuning in and enjoy the rest of your weekend.
We hope you enjoyed today's show. Make sure to listen to the show on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, and Radio Public, where you can subscribe or via RSS, so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, if you like or dislike this episode, we'd appreciate your feedback on Facebook at www.facebook.com/Lionscast. Check out the book, The Black Collar Mindset, The Art of Strategic Thinking on Amazon or www.theblackcollarmindset.com, a manual to maneuver through life strategically by holding yourself accountable. Tune in next week for another episode of The Lion's Den with Seth.